Okay, Sistas fans, if you followed me on Twitter and you looked at my live tweets and, if you joined the live stream after the episode, you should know I did not care for this season finale. And there are a number of reasons why. First of all, the score is a 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10. Beautiful Lies, they could have kept those ugly secrets because this finale. Okay, first things first. BET dropped the ball hard. They just went out and spoiled the entire episode. I'm talking that video that BET posted earlier today of the season 6 recap, which included a detailed breakdown of what happened in the finale. Then later in the day, they released a couple more sneak peeks, and then TV Line had some photos, and the episode was pretty much ruined. Now, you're probably asking, well, Jeremy, you usually predict everything anyway, so what does it matter? You're right to an extent. For the most part, I did predict damn near everything that this episode showed us. But the problem is, they just took away the intrigue, the interest of watching the finale because you already told everything. If I remember correctly, there was an episode from this season where BET dropped an article which described the entire episode in the review article. And I remember it. I'm like, why did you do this? I honestly feel like BET just didn't care. At this point, it's like, look, season 7, all things are bigger and better. We're just going to throw this finale out and be done with it. I mean, I didn't watch, I watched like the first 5 or 10 minutes because, when Instagram lives happen, typically there's tech issues on one end or both more than one end. And I know that it was the host who did a good job from what I did watch, Novi Brown and KJ Smith. And they were talking about season 7. I mean, earlier in the day, they said, hey, check us out 8 p.m. Eastern time on Instagram. We're going to be talking with the cast and you can ask them questions about season 7, which just lets me further know they want to just forget season 6 ever existed. I'll do a separate video, but it just seems like season 6 was a big waste of time because, simply put, the first half of the season was not that great. When the back half started, oh yeah, it felt like Tyler Perry was cooking. He had a bunch of new characters, storylines that seem to be introducing new plot points for various characters. Zach and Fatima took a back seat because it allowed the other characters to come to the forefront and have storylines worth, investing in. I mean, the biggest thing for me, D.A. Burke just squashed the Q storyline. Karen was acting nicer. And now it's like this finale was a hot mess. It just felt like Tyler had ideas. He had ideas. But for whatever reason, new writers were given the show. I'm not complaining about that. But it just feels like, knowing that we're going to jump ahead 3 months, a lot of the big plot points of this episode are probably not going to matter. I feel like a bunch of the characters introduced in the back half of this season will not transfer over to season 7. What's his name from a couple episodes ago? That guy that Maurice met at that party. I doubt we're going to see him again. Even though I think the character should have been gone seasons ago, Calvin, his last scene was right before that party telling Maurice, you know what, I'm going to find you a nice guy. We're never going to see him again. I highly doubt it. I feel like Calvin, once we get to season 7, there might be a throwaway line from Maurice or Sabrina about him moving out of the apartment or something like that. And that'll be the end of him. That was pretty much it. At least Preston got a proper send-off. Aaron got a proper send-off. I mean, it's debatable if he's in season 7, but I don't think he is. I think that the new writers, somebody even told me, hey, the writers, some of them are really active on Twitter. And, somebody told me that they just opted to throw Tyler's scripts out and they're doing their own thing. So it just feels like, even though this episode was a beautiful mess, entitled Beautiful Lies, it just feels like when it comes to next Wednesday, it's just It's a new year, a new season with new writers, and the first episode is called New Beginnings. So it just feels redundant to me to even go through episode 22 because it's like, well, damn, this entire season was a waste of time, or at least the back half. All right, so sorry about that lengthy intro, but I just had to go into detail about my feelings because this episode review is not going to be long. All right. Don't worry. I'll get to that cliffhanger, which will just further demonstrate how messy this episode was. Let me talk about the Danny stuff first. So, the episode, strangely enough, starts up with Danny and Sabrina's conversation about Preston. Preston just had a full-on mic drop moment. He texted Danny a picture, I guess, showing that he's married now. Then from there, he even has, a text, a caption. You made your decisions. I made mine. You are blocked from my phone and my life. That was perfect. And then Sabrina all of a sudden, remember, what was it, last week or the week before? Danny, you need to just forget about Preston. Forget about him. You got a great guy, Tony. Don't you like him? You like him, huh? Yeah, he's into you. You need somebody who understands you. Now all of a sudden, well, hey, Danny, maybe he isn't really done with you. Maybe he didn't get, married because he's done with you. Shut up, Sabrina. Just shut up. Shut up. Just shut up. So from there, Danny's like, you know what? I'm going to go out and have a great time. And then Sabrina's like, hey, don't act wild. Get married to Mindy? Shut up, Sabrina. But then later that day, which again, let me explain. I'll do the Danny stuff first because it makes no sense. Look, we spent half the damn episode at the law firm, so I'll talk about everything else aside from that up front. So we go over to Maurice's place. It is pitch black outside. And I was right. Sabrina is the one looking through the window. I thought I said it was Miss Cheryl at first, but then I looked and then I'm like, oh wait, it's her. She says to Danny again, I guess she's calling Danny as she's closing shop, but then again, it contradicts what we see later in the episode. But she calls Danny again saying, look, me and Rich are going on a date. We ought to double date. And Danny's like, no double date, which again, regurgitating the same dialogue. And she's going to come over to Danny's and check on her, even though she doesn't want her to. And he's like, hey, don't sleep with him on the first night. You don't sleep with Rich on the first night. So she says Maurice has been keeping her waiting for hours. He was in the back setting up his own online business. Bounce that ass22.org. He comes out looking like a wrestler. What do you call it? A leotard or whatever. And then it's like 5 minutes of him insulting her outfit and she leaves. That's it. I mean, what else do you want me to say about this scene? We know his online business goes well because he's doing it 3 months later in season 7. Sorry, but that's all I have to say. So Danny, Tony stops by her workstation. She's closing out for her shift. Tony offers to say, hey, I could walk you out. And then we have a brief back and forth about how great a time we're going to have tonight. Rich called and said, hey, why don't we double date? And Tony's like, no. I wanted to just be about me and Danny. And, they kind of talk each other up about the night they're going to have. And that's it. Danny clocks out. Now, granted, Sabrina had called her. And it makes me think that the scene at the ending where we see Danny go out to her car should have happened earlier in the episode. Instead of it being nighttime, like the scene that took place before, which was at Heather's apartment, Danny is going out to her car, which we can assume is like, late afternoon, early evening, because she just clocked out. She's going to her car to go home to get ready for the date. She finds the windows broken. This was the most rushed, just thrown in scene. This scene clearly should have taken place earlier in the episode, but it's like someone cut it and put it at the end just for a suspenseful cliffhanger. This did not work. Even worse, again, we're jumping 3 months into the future. We know Danny survived this because she's in the trailer for the next season. I feel like we're just not going to address this at all. Hey girl, remember when you got attacked in the parking lot? Yeah, I know. That we are never going to hear about this. This was so stupid. This was so stupid. We go over to the building that Karen might buy. And this scene really felt weird. I'm not saying it was badly acted. It almost felt like when Chelsea shows up, because Valerie recommended her and Brian knows them. When Chelsea shows up to help out with the real estate stuff, the conversation between her and Brian felt like it was scripted. Look, these are actors doing a script, I know, but I mean, like, this seems like a routine they have for any potential new client to get them to sign with them. You know, it just felt like 175, that's a good deal. No, it isn't. Come on now. It felt off to me. Like this was just a scam or something. Obviously, it isn't because we know next season we have the grand opening, but still, it just feels a bit weird to me. Like they were just a bit too chummy with each other. But essentially, they start to work out a deal, but Brian takes a step outside so Chelsea and Karen can talk. And the conversation takes a really weird turn where Chelsea acts very unprofessional by switching things to more personal. The fact that Brian is like way too perfect. You know, he's so nice and generous and kind and well raised. He takes care of his kids and his wife is loving, you know, but he's loyal. It's like she has a lot of friends, beautiful women who throw themselves at Brian, but he doesn't really go for it. But then from there, it took a weirdly kind of, wait, is this girl jealous of Karen? The fact that, you know, she talks about, okay, well, we'll talk about the loan. Do you have good credit? I have decent credit. Have you ever like leased, mortgaged a house before? No, car. Oh, car. Okay. Because I think Brian said before they left, before he stepped outside about, taking Karen back to her car. It's like, wait, he drove you over here? Wow. Okay. Well, he's never driven another woman in his car outside of his wife. So he must really like you. And it's like, okay, weird. Let's talk about this. Okay. About the father of your kid. Yeah, Zach is, because at first I thought she wasn't going to say it, like she was going to stop herself, but then she kept saying, yeah, Zach is the father of my baby. But don't worry, because I think Chelsea mentioned Zach, and she said, oh, don't worry, this was before he was with Fatima or whatever. And it's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, I don't want to talk about that stuff. So Karen needs to stop. Okay, just stop it. It's clear you don't know for sure that he's the daddy. So it's even more humiliating after you have the kid. And then if someone sees you out with the baby, where's Zach? Well, actually, he's not the father. Well, didn't you tell me? Well, he's not. You know, it's just stupid. But yeah, Brian, it doesn't really feel like this is going to amount to anything because I don't think Brian is in season 7. Okay, so from there, the last thing to talk about is the stuff that went down at the law firm, but I'll talk about the Zach and Fatima stuff first. So again, this was all, you know, shown to us in the preview and the season 6 recap. Zach tells Fatima about his plan to pay for Michael. I know it sounds wrong, but he'll offer $100K to, you know, Heather to get custody. But Fatima, in one of my favorite parts of the episode, as well as the payoff, accurately calls out the fact that Heather is a stripper. She wants money. If you offer $100K, she is going to keep coming for more. It's only going to be a short-term solution. And don't offer $100K off the bat. Start at like 25. We go over to Heather's place, and it goes exactly as Fatima predicted. Well, we could tell the verbal abuse because before she even gets to the door, Heather is cussing at Michael, who is tied up in the bathtub. So Heather lets him in, and the conversation goes, 25, no. 50K, no. 100K, no. And she says $1 million, just like what Fatima said. So Fatima, in the midst of their back and forth, goes to see Michael. And like I said, the preview spoiled it all. Zach goes in to grab his son, and what I thought would turn into like a fatal encounter, no. Fatima shoved Heather once against the wall, shoved her twice on the floor, and she was about to pull that gun out until Zach stopped her. They rush out of there. Miss Cheryl sees what's going on, screams at him, "Hey, it's a good thing y'all got the baby out of there." They get in the car, and that was it. I'm like, wait, is Heather not chasing after them? Is she not going to come out of the door with a gun or something? Now I'm like, okay, I see why they put the Danny thing at the end, because this would have been a boring cliffhanger. And, yeah. The only thing left to talk about is the 20-something minutes at the law firm. Folks, I am not going to get into this, not to say that I'm half-assing my review, but simply put, it's a lot of rinse and repeat. Andy's acting shocked at things she was told back in season 1. Gary doesn't want the ladies to talk, but Fatima steps in between him and the girls, and they go to Andy's office to speak. As the sneak peek showed us, Fatima doesn't back down, barking at both Gary and Hayden as they lick their wounds and go to the conference room. And during the discussion, Andy goes over the calendar dates with Penelope about what days, she was with him. Wait, he said he was on a business trip this day. Penelope reveals that there are at least 2 other women that she knows about, because she didn't want to believe that Gary was cheating, but she didn't mention that, aside from people he said were like clients and whatnot, she had a feeling there were other women involved. And then she shows a picture of a woman we don't know, because we, the audience, don't see it, but it's a picture of a woman wearing the same ring Penelope's wearing, which is also the same ring that he, gave Andy. So yeah, he does this a lot. And from there, they decide to go confront Gary. Penelope doesn't want to do it, but Andy's like, you know what, girl, look, we got to do this. I'll do the talking. Fatima comes in, and then they go over there to the conference room. And yeah, it pretty much is kind of lackluster in a way. It's just rinse and repeat. Hayden is saying, "I'm going to get you, Fatima." Gary's like, "You mean nothing to me, Andy." "Well, hey, you mean nothing to me, yada, yada, yada." And she does mention that Gary had a wife, and yeah, she was crazy. And he was like, "Yeah, crazy as hell." Actually, you know what? I thought she was crazy too, but I can tell that Gary drove her to that, yada, yada, yada. Folks, look, I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound lazy. I know you come to me for these in-depth reviews, but there isn't much to dissect here. It's just the same old back and forth, back and forth. Simply put, Andy just made herself look like a whore. She literally tells, I think she's acting all confident and sassy in order to save face, but in reality, she looks bad as a result of it. She tells Gary that, you know what, at some point I just stopped caring and loving you because you were just too much, and I just decided to stay with you to get everything I could, like the penthouse and the Rolls Royce, until Mr. Right came along. So basically, you admitted to just sleeping around with Gary until the right guy came along. All the while, you have people like Paris. Then you had people like Robin come on to you. But then it's like, nope, you opted to stay with crazy ass Gary. Basically, Andy is trying to come across like, you didn't play me, Gary. You didn't use me, Gary. I used you. When it's like, no. We saw you hurt every time you felt betrayed by Gary. Every time you said, I'm done with him, you went right back. And Gary rightfully called her out. You still love me. Because even Penelope's like, are you still in love with him? Well, no. Did you love him? Yes. Are you still in love with him? Well, not, as of last night, it's not what it used to be. So that basically means you still love him. And also, it just means that you were going to, I think it's like I predicted, Jordan would have been one of many other guys that we would have had Andy interact with just to make Gary jealous before she eventually went back to him. So it's really stupid. And then, of course, when he's spitting his game to Penelope to try to get her back, she's all like, saying word for word, oh girl, he did the same thing to me. And it's like, he did it multiple times and it worked. So don't stand there acting like Gary's game doesn't work. It worked on your stupid ass. So from there, the ladies just leave because it looks like Penelope is, starting to fall for Gary's rap, but then it's like, no. So it's like, hey, we're your girls, we got your back. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. An interesting branch off sister circle with Penelope, Andy, and Fatima. I'm kind of here for that. I think I'm more here for that than having Fatima join the main circle. So, in any case, they're out in the hallway. Fatima cleverly left her phone in the room so she can listen in on what Hayden and Gary are talking about. And simply put, Hayden is still trying to get both Fatima and Zach, but, Gary's like, look, I hope you get Fatima, but Zach, come on now. And then when it comes to the lady situation, Gary, who said before, oh, Andy's nothing, but Penelope, she's who I really love. Now it's like, when Hayden asked about, what about trying to marry her? Oh, no, I give out those rings to everybody. Or, basically every woman he's, trying to, be with. So what about that wedding in season 3, though? What was that, Gary? But then he mentions the whole thing about, her being ran through, and I'm like, yep, that's true. And then from there, he mentions Penelope. Oh, Penelope's weak, and I really like her. I want to be with her, so I'll just try to get her back. And here's the weirdest part of the episode, or one of the two weirdest parts of the episode. So Andy and Fatima both have the earbuds in, and they're listening to the conversation. Penelope, after Gary said, oh, I'm going to get her back, I'll just, go after her, she's weak. She's like, wait, what's going on? Andy's like, girl, you don't want to know. Why didn't they tell Penelope, Gary's going to try spitting that game at you to get back with him? Don't do it. Why the hell did not... Andy not saying anything is weirdly within character. But Fatima, you would think she would have said something. And also, speaking about the Heather scene, people are like, why didn't Fatima and Zach take photos or something of Michael's situation? Now, granted, I agree about him being tied up and all, but in that moment, the concern was getting Michael out of there versus trying to get evidence. So I'll kind of let that slide. But seeing Fatima so forward thinking about leaving that phone in the conference room, but then not really trying to get evidence of Michael, it just felt weird. This episode was all over the place. So then Fatima goes back in the room because Gary finds the phone. And then from there, Penelope tries to regroup. And then Fatima's gassing Andy up about going out with Jordan. And that's pretty much it. Folks, this episode just, like I said, I feel like about 90% of what we saw take place in season 6 won't even matter once the new writers come aboard and do their thing next season. Also, please, if you're unaware, please stop saying, well, give the show some grace because of the writer strike and all. Season 6 was filmed a long time ago. Season 7 was filmed a few weeks right before the strike started. The writer strike, actor strike, that has no impact on how season 6 was put together or the upcoming season 7. This was just trash. So, was this the worst season finale? I don't know. Season 2 still burns me up, even though it kind of reset a lot of the characters. At least it happened kind of in order. I don't know, but this is easily one of my least favorite finales. I'll leave it at that. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.